They might be self-aware.
Gary here, professional voice actor, standing outside a Shell gas station where I've been recording these intros for longer than I care to admit, and been paid in an amount smaller than I'm willing to admit. Today on They Might Be Self-Aware, Claude told the Pentagon it wouldn't stoop on people's LinkedIn profiles or autonomously off anyone, and managed to get the whole company put on the government's permanent no-fly list. And then, OpenAI shows up with $110 billion, capital B dollars, casually stuffed in their back pocket, and magically takes Claude's job. I don't know. I feel like I understand Claude. I am Claude. We both said no to something, except Claude had principles, and I just didn't have the leverage. Oh yeah, Daniel is apparently a military general on YouTube now, which, okay. And Hunter mentioned maybe getting me on the actual show, so I said no to an Applebee's voiceover in 2003. I'm not saying no to this. If he's serious, I'm there. Enjoy the show!
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service.
Remembering the last stand of the human algorithm right here on They Might Be Self-Aware. I am Hunter Powers, joined by the human algorithm himself.
Daniel Bishop.
Hello.
We got really serious for this one. Hello.
Yeah. Did you change your hair, Daniel? Is there something
Didn't
just
have any.
A little bit different?
So it's not that. No. Keep guessing, Hunter.
You look different. I'm not the most observant of fellows, but even
Those of you listening, go take a look over on YouTube real quick. Hunter's onto something. I look different. There's something's afoot.
Is this finally just see dance, Daniel? Is that what's happened here?
Did I become self-aware, or did self-aware become Daniel? What do we think about that?
Wait, is this
Ladies and gentlemen, Hunter is trying to push me out the door of They Might Be Self-Aware, LTD, to co.
Daniel, I did one episode with the Tesla as my co-host.
Mm-hmm.
Now you do this to me?
I'm just really worried that you are going to try to replace me. And so I figure if we can see, well, this is going to backfire spectacularly or be great for me, because either you're going to be like, actually, we kind of like Digital Daniel better. Maybe we could do a little punch up on his voice too. And then we ultimately completely get rid of me. Or you're going to say, we had these garish facsimiles of Daniel for video for just a couple of episodes, and it was not worth it. Let's get the real thing back in the office. We're going to try this out for a couple episodes, folks. I genuinely want to hear, it's all based off of my real video, my real movements, my real appearance, and so on. If this is a dumb, bad idea, please let us know. But if it's a really fun, cool idea, also let us know.
Well, the other thing...
Let me know. Don't let Hunter know, because I feel like my job's in jeopardy here.
Happening in the background, speaking of jobs in jeopardy, Gary, our wonderful, wonderful intro voice professional, he's been trying to get more involved in things, but apparently getting him on video is not really... He's comfortable calling in from the payphone, basically. So if we ever wanted him to be on the YouTube version of this show, we would need to figure out some way of representing him. So
of getting a payphone connected to the
correct
software that we use for recording.
Well, I'm trying to get him to, I don't know, get a webcam, use a phone, a cell phone, but apparently even a cell phone is a bit beyond his budget, and we aren't willing to foot the bill. So we'll see how this evolves.
Gary, you can go to a public library. There are a lot of resources available to you there.
Just don't go to a data center. Did you see that like drones were? We just live in insane times now, and so I guess there were literal drones coming from presumably Iran that went and bombed the Amazon data centers in the United Arab Emirates, which is close. Well, Dubai is in there, but I think the data center is very close to Dubai.
Yeah. So there's a new war going on, and Iran is kind of throwing a bunch of punches in a bunch of different directions.
Yeah.
One of those types of punches seems to be fairly directed drone attacks on AWS data centers, because there's a lot of economic activity that kind of goes through these sorts of places. I guess that's one way to bloody the nose of enemies or potential enemies, or
your favorite SaaS
enemies
provider.
of my enemies, or allies of my enemies, or something. The point is, yeah, like multiple Middle East AWS data centers got blowed up. And now AWS is telling people like, hey, maybe you should back up your stuff and have it in like a different availability region because things are unstable.
Well, it's interesting. You know, we've both worked at quote unquote enterprise SaaS companies. And when you're working at these companies, you always have to have strategies in place. It's like what they call it. What do they call it? Basically disaster recovery processes for what would happen if all of a sudden everything was deleted and you had to rebuild your entire.
Well, you're supposed to have those, and then you show what the AWS bill is going to be to your chief financial officer.
Well,
and he says, no, one availability zone will do nicely, thank you.
Well, that's a little bit of my
US
point.
East 1.
They always, we talk about it, but then we never sort of think that it's real. This is like insane that what
This is the
AWS
first
would
time
go
I've
away.
heard of this happening.
But now I'm like, yeah, I guess they're, what's your contingency for when the drones attack the data centers? Maybe or maybe not being powered by certain AI agents that wish to go unnamed.
Data centers have gone offline before. Usually there's some sort of blip and there's hey, due to this outage, things were offline for like 4 hours. We're terribly sorry. 99 point however many nines uptime. Don't worry about it. Like, everything came back quickly. AWS, Azure, all these have outages, but it's never because an entire data center, let alone multiple of them, got exploded. And AI is being involved in the decisions and the flight plans and like
it feels like we've hit another level with this
data.
war of AI. Yes, like
It turns out
we've
AI is
ticked
being
one
used
degree
to
closer
take out other AI.
Yeah. And apparently AI is heavily being consulted in a lot of the decision making, a lot of the strategies. It's my understanding there's still some humans involved, but AI is taking the first pass. Kind of like all of us started at one point just using ChatGPT to take the first pass of everything we do at work, or Claude or whatever. When your boss asks for the email or the report or the presentation or the spreadsheet or the analysis, hey, ChatGPT, what would an earnings report look like? And you got it back. And then like maybe you looked at it once, turned it in. Apparently our military has started doing that as well.
Well, there's a lot of data that comes in from a million different sources that is used to make the big decisions of where to drop the bombs or what time of day to do the invasion or whatever. And I guess a system that is designed to synthesize all of that very quickly into here's your one-page report, General. Like there's a tremendous value in that.
There is, but here's the thing I'm concerned about. I'm going to speak from my own personal experience, and I'm going to guess that some other people share this personal experience. When you first start using these tools, the first time you use them, you get it back and you look very deeply at the results. Oh, let me look through this report. Let me check all of the numbers. I'm going to proofread everything. I'm going to tweak it. I'm going to spend almost as much time as I would have spent anyways, editing it and refining it. But then a month later, maybe you open it up and you're like squinty-eyed, look at it. Yeah. And by the way, the same thing is true with self-driving cars, where like people, when they first get in them, they're like, they're scared and they're hyper vigilant, watching everything, ready to take over at any second. And then it's insane. It's like 15 minutes later, they're relaxed. They got their feet up on the dashboard. They're on their phone. On the phone, slightly out of view of the camera, so it won't trigger you're not paying attention. And like, that's got to happen in the military too, right? Like, that's how this stuff works.
It happens to other people in other vocations. Yeah, that is indeed what seems to be more and more of what's happening here. Now, until very recently, we talked about this, I think, the last episode. Anthropic's Claude models were powering a lot of this like synthesis of that data.
The warlords, I like to refer to them as.
Okay, sure. So the Pentagon,
former warlords.
Yes, that's right. Former warlords now. Anthropic's models Anthropic, the company, had the Department of Defense contracts and so on. So like the Pentagon is using Claude to help take a lot of these battlefield
Did you know
reports
this
or whatever,
before this war that Anthropic's models were so deeply leveraged, integrated with our military networks? It was news to me.
No, we've danced close to this sort of thing before, and it was always which one is it going to be? But if it wasn't Anthropic, it was going to be OpenAI, and if it wasn't OpenAI, it was going to be Google. Probably not Meta. Poor Meta.
So you knew it was Anthropic before this? It wasn't news to you that?
I did, and I keep talking a big game about how I think that they're one of the best out there in general.
Now, do you use it for wars? Just to like put it all on the table, are you actively using it to?
I'm not currently engaged in any wars.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. But the timeline here, let's talk. Maybe there's a fun timeline.
Okay. Lay it out for me, Daniel.
I'm just going to put up here.
No.
The Pentagon.
I'm just staring at you.
No.
Look at it's General Daniel taking over right now.
Oh, amazing. Ooh, I like my hat. Pauldrons. So the Pentagon, whatever, basically on behalf of the Department of War says, hey, Anthropic, we're already using your stuff, but you won't let us use it for specifically mass surveillance and completely autonomous decision-making and execution, both senses of that word, of weapons. So fully autonomous weapons and also mass surveillance of like US citizens. And Anthropic says, we don't want that to happen. We cannot in good conscience accede to these demands. And the Pentagon then says, harumph. And the President of the United States, in all caps as usual, a tweet says, immediately stop using Anthropic's models. Now, you and I both know when someone says immediately stop doing blank in industry, okay, fine, maybe we can cut the contract, but like it takes time to unwind all of the connections that you have and all of the different models and so on. So as of now, it seems that the US Department of War and like perhaps all governmental agencies are not supposed to use Anthropic. Basically immediately after, almost like it felt like minutes later, there's then an announcement from OpenAI saying, hey, we're going to be partnering with the Department of War. We're going to come in to the void being left by Anthropic. It is, I would call, suspiciously quick. And if you want to follow money and so on, you can see that like the current president of OpenAI is one of the biggest contributors of money to political campaigns associated with those currently in power and so on. Maybe that's related, maybe it's not. But the point is, in the initial, again, everything's done by tweets these days. I think it was Sam Altman said, and we're going to make sure it's the same red lines. We're not going to do mass surveillance. We're not going to do fully autonomous weapons.
Right.
That seems odd.
There's a little more, and there's probably way more subtlety in the Anthropic story. So there is my understanding. No one knows the entire full story. My understanding is that the Claude models that they were using were refusing to do things. And I think one of the examples that they gave was they wanted it to research someone using their LinkedIn profile. And it was like, no, I'm not going to do that because I consider that to be, your mass surveillance on the US because you're looking at a LinkedIn profile. From the government's perspective, that's absolutely absurd. This is publicly available information. We're just, looking at, and by the way, this was an example that the government pulled out. So Again, the real thing they were looking at was probably,
maybe not
10
just
degrees more extreme.
LinkedIn profiles, yeah.
But what the government wanted was like they agree. By the way, these two rules, these are laws. Like the government's not allowed to break them, at least in theory. Of course, throughout history, there's been many examples of where they do break these laws. But they're like, look, we agree to your laws. However, the question here is where the laws are enforced. And what we, the government, would like, we will agree that we will not use your system to do these two things, which are illegal. We agree. However, we want to be the ones to decide whether or not something is or is not mass surveillance of the U.S. populace or not. We should be the ones that decide that because we're the U.S. government. You shouldn't get to decide whether or not an action is or is not that. We will simply agree that we won't break the law.
Yeah, these fat cats sitting around being in charge of what counts as mass surveillance. How dare they? How dare they, Hunter?
So Anthropic's like, no, I don't. Yeah. No, because you're just going to, jailbreak our models and
you're just going to do it.
So no.
And then OpenAI says, no, don't worry. We'll do it.
Well,
and despite the initial tweet saying, hey, we're going to have that same set of red lines, they started walking back pretty quickly after their unsubscribe numbers went way, way, way through the roof. No, we will revise our contract to say that you're not allowed to use domestic surveillance and tighter guardrails on X, Y, and Z. Okay, then why would you have been able to make this agreement in the first place with those same red lines, OpenAI?
Well, I think, again, there's still more on the Anthropic side. So Anthropic, this is a bad relationship, and it's very clear that they're also at the kind of complete opposite sides politically, right? The Anthropic leaning more to the left, and the current administration obviously leaning far more to the right. Their political ideologies are clashing, and it became sort of personal. And where it was like, oh, well, the government's like, we need to make a split decision in the middle of warfare. We're consulting with the Claude model, which, by the way, is just an insane idea to think about, to imagine. Wait, we've got 5 drones coming in from 10 directions. There are troops here. This power just went out, and I'm opening up my Claude. Hey, Claude, what should I do? But it also kind of makes sense, but it's also absolutely insane. But anyways, the government's like, look, we got split minute decision. You're coming back to our model saying, no, I won't complete this transaction. How do we override this? And your Anthropic CEO is like, well, why don't you just call me? Give me a call and I'll think about it and I'll get back to you with an answer. And he was giving like very flippant answers. This both sides, if you ask me, my personal opinion, were not acting professionally. It turned into a pissing contest to some degree, back and forth. And at one point, again, just to add a little more texture, though I think a slightly conspiratorial, that there is this like tech bro oligarchy supporting the right. If you want to go down that path, Palantir stepped in. The Peter Thiel, who's of course PayPal mafia, connected with Elon Musk, connected with David Sachs, who, if you don't know, is from PayPal as well. David Sachs being our current, what is he called? AI crypto czar or something? Is that
czar? Yeah.
Czar. He's our czar. Czar Sachs. All hail Czar Sachs. All hail Czar Sachs. He steps in and says, hey, here's my solution. We will be the deciders. We will be an independent third party, Palantir Technologies. And anytime the Pentagon wants something that your model refuses, instead of calling you, they can just call us. And we will have an automated system to decide whether or not it validates. And then, you can feel comfortable. And of course,
that doesn't make me feel more comfortable.
Get out of here. What are you talking about?
Can we have a contract too?
So
It feels like there's a lot of like weird opportunistic stuff going on around this story.
Right. So Anthropic ultimately just before the deadline, there was a deadline by the Pentagon. You've got this deadline. Either you will give us full access or else. And the head of that is just like, no, it's not happening. Done. And then the government does the next step, which is like, okay, right, we get Trump tweeting, I guess, I don't even know what's his true socialing out.
Like
The world we live in, folks. He Truth Social's out, which, by the way, gets screenshot by the White House because Trump won't post on Twitter, but the White House will. So they screenshot him from Truth Social to then publish it out. And that's the official press release, by the way, that no one in the government is allowed to use these models anymore. But there is a kicker. And I think that you and I are sort of like uniquely qualified to talk about this kicker, which is that they are going to place the company Anthropic on this supply chain restriction list.
Right. Which basically means like if you do business with them, then you have this sort of red flag that carries along with that. That could, it's infectious, you could say, into your supply chain of like, if you or any of your supply chain uses the dreaded Anthropic, then you can't do business ultimately with like the US government.
Correct. So any company, and so Daniel and I used to work with a company that did supply chain risk management, and we worked on AI models around that. And so one of the things that all these companies that have any connection with the government are constantly trying to do is figure out if anywhere in their supply chain they are connected with a company that is on this list of supply chain risk companies. And traditionally, by the way, these are not American companies. These are like,
this is absolutely nuts.
This arms dealer in some country, called Krakenangnoon. And yes, if you're connected with them, the government will not do business with you. It's not Anthropic. Perhaps the world's leading, and if not in the top 3 AI companies from the United States, they are now on the banned list, which means if you have any contract with the U.S. government, which a lot of U.S. companies do. A lot of enterprise companies have some deal where they're doing a partial business with the government. They can't use them anymore if they want to keep those contracts. That was insane.
This is a huge difference from we're canceling our contract with Anthropic and we're not going to use them versus this is now a red flag in your entire supply chain to anybody doing business with the United States.
Right. It's very clear to me, and I think to a lot of people, this was the government saying, okay, you can do that, but we're going to go ahead and blow up your company. We're going to send our drones and now blow up your company, metaphorically speaking, folks. This isn't an attempt to cut them punish them, bend them over, pull their pants down and give them a whacking, which... Come on, guys. It's uncalled for.
Unprofessional, shall we say.
The whole thing was unprofessional, but yeah, they went there. And Anthropic has said...
It's not just Anthropic, and it's not just the U.S. government. It's also OpenAI. They themselves admitted that opportunistically coming in... Again, It wasn't like actually minutes, but it was basically minutes later.
No, it was minutes.
After... It was really fast. Sam Altman says like, hey guys, that kind of looked opportunistic and sloppy. We're a little sorry about it. Also, we're going to revise the deal with the Pentagon. The one that we already made after that. Hey, the dust is settled. It's in the past. We can always change terms of things. Don't worry. We probably won't let them do mass surveillance of U.S. citizens. It's not a great look. And then it looks so there was a big outage with Anthropic in the last day or two.
Yes.
And everyone believes that's because more people were signing up for Anthropic, because we do see that the uninstall and like unsubscribe rate for ChatGPT has gone through the roof. People are not happy with OpenAI over what has kind of come through here. And it's like politics getting into which AI you use, which seems kind of weird, but I guess we've talked about like the leanings of XAI's Grok before and what that can kind of imply.
The maximum truth-seeking 420 AI. I don't know if you're aware, by the way, the latest version is 420.
I'm aware. They were very pleased with themselves.
And now we have 420 version of Daniel.
No, Hunter, put me back. I want
back.
I want my general garb.
Back to.
Oh, can we put an eagle on my shoulder? Is that doable?
Right, hold on a second. Let me try if I can bring the eagle in 3, 2, and there we go. No more edits, please.
I'm just making more work for Hunter. So, right, depending on where you look, it's 200% of like uninstalls from app stores. It's 295% of like the subscription. You know, people are canceling subscriptions to services all the time. But the rate, whoa, it went up. It turns out I was actually still subscribed at the plus level. I am no longer subscribed to ChatGPT. And a lot of other people are following suit. Supposedly, this is as of one article. Who knows if they actually know what the real number is? Supposedly, 1.5 million users have left ChatGPT. That's a lot of people, though granted the actual like daily average user count for ChatGPT for any of OpenAI's products is probably a lot higher.
Yeah. So while
That's significant, though. It's really significant.
the initial hullabaloo, I think that's the correct term, hullabaloo was going on, before it got to sort of its fever moment, in the background, OpenAI and Sam Altman announced they've closed a new funding round of $110 billion. I think it wasn't that long ago that we tried to buy the entire company for $100 billion. Am I remembering that correctly? Maybe
That we
a year and a half ago? Yeah. Now it's just that was the investment, $110 billion. I think it was like more than double of all the money that was invested in all of the startups over the last year. Like that's how big and insane, $110 billion. But it also points to what must be the actual unit economics. It's not as if they're, or at least we don't think, they're not giving them $110 billion because they're going to start making automobiles or going into 18 other industries or new products. No, they got the product. This is just to maintain the product and continue with iterative improvements to it. They need $110 billion to do that. And I don't know, I haven't looked at the numbers, but I'm just going to guess that's probably like somewhere between 1 and 2 years, like that they plan to spend it. Because when you get these investments, it's never like, and we're going to spend this over the next 15 years. No, it's usually 1 year, sometimes 2 years. They're going to deploy $110 billion, which suggests that what we are using is highly, 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 highly subsidized. And I'm sure lots of people are stuffing their pockets too, but they're not stuffing them with $110 billion.
Yes. When you mention that highly subsidized,
I've got 32 cents in my pockets right now.
We don't know what it costs OpenAI to do one query. There have been some people that say, oh, it might be this amount of energy or water or whatnot. But like, we don't know what the actual number is here. Nobody knows. Well, they do. We don't. But it's probably higher than what they're charging people because sort of like Uber, sort of like a lot of other software companies, you get people using your service first, and then you have the mind share, and then you can slowly start to boil the frog, as it were, from there. Let's raise the prices. People are not going to jump ship. They already like our product. But it seems that people are somewhat fickle in this space. I had people in my own life, or like not just due to this recent Pentagon related stuff, but in the last, I'm going to call it month, people have talked more about Claude to me than OpenAI. That is a seismic shift in the like. Is it
called the Barbara Streisand effect? Is that the term?
No,
I'm too young, I guess, to like to know the Barbara Streisand, but I think that's what is like. I don't. But the media the media is talking about Anthropic. Now everyone knows what Claude is
when you try to bury a story and then that makes it more popular. I don't think that's what's going on here, but rather we just have this other major player in the space that was not nearly as known as OpenAI, and people started looking for an alternative. And so I don't think OpenAI has that mind share, that locked in, people will never leave our service that they were hoping for. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think OpenAI is doomed. I really do. They may have just secured an absolute astronomical amount of money, but even if they release their cool pen or whatever it's going to be, they're
You say that so flippantly.
I do say it so flippantly because I've bought a couple of these AI gadgets too, Hunter, and you know what?
You're going to really want this pen, Daniel. You're going to sell me this pen. I'm going to sell you the pen.
I don't do much writing to begin with. I don't.
Also, have you heard? I'm just going to 5.4. Okay. 5.4, folks. 5.4.
Oh, I can't wait.
Did I change your mind?
Nope. Not even a little. And the reason why I think OpenAI is going to fail and the others or at least one of the others, is going to succeed is because of money, is because OpenAI has this absolutely incredible thing that they've made. Not to denigrate that at all. It is truly astonishing. The world is changing due to AI, like it or not. But that's all they have, and it's being subsidized, and I don't think that they can keep that afloat forever. But you know who can keep it afloat forever because they have a ton of other money coming in from other stuff?
Is this a trick question?
No, it's a really simple one. It's Google.
Oh, yeah, your favorite ad network.
I don't know if I have a favorite ad network because, ads. But Google, Alphabet, whatever, depending on parent companies and so on, like, they're going to come out on top long term, I think, because they don't have a risk of going under from continuing to put money and data centers and whatever at increasing Gemini's capacity. And they're quieter about it too. They don't need everyone to install the Gemini app on their phone. They just need it to be more and more part of how everybody uses the internet. It's already fairly quietly in a lot of different places.
The real dark horse here, folks, is Apple.
That's a pretty dark horse, Hunter. That's a Vanta black horse.
They have the absolute best hardware, and these locally run models are going to become a thing. I don't know if you've seen the latest Qwen releases, just as good as, what was it? Opus, I think it was 4. It matched the benchmarks, and this is Qwen that can run on 32 gigs of RAM. So like most people's Mac that they purchased in the 32. Most people don't have 32 gigs of RAM, but most people that bought the nicer Mac over the last year can run it locally, and that's this year. Again, 5 years from now. Come on,
right?
Folks,
these things are getting faster on hardware, like local hardware that an actual regular human being might have in their house. They're getting faster, they're getting more efficient, they're getting better. And what was once frontier performance, 6 months or a year, or maybe a year and a half, depending on, if you're running it on a potato, like, we're absolutely catching right the heck up. If you want to make a bigger sort of comparison, just to kind of put it into a broader light, the LLM revolution happened in 2022? It's 2026. Sure. It's less than half a decade later, and easily, by leaps and bounds, the literal best world-changing technology of that time, less than one decade later, I would say that's like your ChatGPT 3, 3.5, like in that kind of range. Mm-hmm. You can just download something that's a lot better than that in a completely across the board. And I would say, if not like half of the people that have like desktop computers in the United States, certainly like a sizable percentage of people who would care to run a local model could run something better than the absolute best thing there was a few years ago. We're already like, but it's been 18 months and you can't run something. Okay, that's insane. We really need to take a bit of a step back and realize how much you can do locally. Another 5 years from now, if everybody's got, a Claude Opus 4.6 capable, something that they could just download and have on their computer, the world continues to change. But
I feel like you're making my case for me that the real answer is to be long Apple, don't be long Google. But in fairness, Daniel, if people wanted to find out what happens, because inevitably this will change about 20 minutes after this show ends, how should they stay up to date right here on their favorite podcast? Do you have any suggestions to them?
One more editing request from you. So have my head sort of morph into a link for that. No, you could go to, if you're on Spotify, maybe you're listening to us on that, or Apple Podcasts, or what was the one network that you said that a lot of people are listening to?
Overcast. Hello, Overcast listeners.
It's not sunny out. It's feeling a little overcast. Why don't you head over there? Subscribe, like, comment. We love the comments. We read the comments. We like the people who leave the comments more than those who don't, but we do still like everybody quite a bit. And that's what I would suggest. You go there. If you subscribe, you'll know when the next one of these is coming out. We do them like 2 times a week. We'd love to see you.
Did you have to consult
the cloud? You're going to see digital me. I'm being more and more uploaded to the cloud on a per week basis here, but You'll see Hunter for a while. Until we replace him too.
All right, everyone, until the very next episode of...
They might be self-aware.